Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me out on the stretch. And in the thumbnail, I have a picture of a rainbow, and there's actually two if you look closely. And last night, I was on a walk with a friend, and this rainstorm came out of nowhere in New York City and just started downpouring in buckets. And once it was over, we went back out and just a beautiful rainbow. And I haven't seen one in years, much less in New York City, of all places, much less in the month of June. And despite what the enemy and man tries to do to mock God, to make what he's separated and holy unholy, God is on the throne. He is not mocked, and he is in total control. And as I was looking at this, just like in awe and amazed of just how God keeps his promises from one generation to the next. And I have a question to ask all of you. What has God promised you? And this was a question that I was asking a group of people earlier in the year as I was speaking to them, because that's what the Lord was just stirring in my heart as I was driving into the city. And probably about 8, 9 years ago, I was coming out to Columbus Circle, about to head into Central Park, and there's at this time of year there was just protests almost every other week, and you kind of have to wait for everything to pass and then walk up to 80s or so block territory to cross into Central Park. So it's kind of a long ordeal. And as I was just observing and taking all of this in, the Lord just asked me this question: Noah, what are we going to call this? And it wasn't something I was expecting God to ask me. And he had me in my prayer time of a verse in Psalm 24 where it says, "This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob." And at that time we were singing at the church I was attending, "Come, let this be the generation that seeks your face, O God of Jacob." And so I just said, Lord, this is the generation that's going to seek your face. And that was a specific promise that God made me. And so when I ask, what has God promised you? There's general promises that the Lord will speak to all believers. And then there's things that are specific. So something that's general might be, commit your ways to the Lord and acknowledge him, and he shall direct your steps. So that's something general that we can all lean on. But there's specific things that the Lord will speak to you and I that are to the plans and the purposes that he has for you and I. And so if you're getting shut in, maybe you're new to the Lord, or you haven't opened up your Bible in a while, or maybe you just haven't even meditated on, God, what have you promised me in those early years? Begin to do so, because God keeps his promises from one generation to the next. In Genesis 9, verse 12, it says, "Then God said, I am giving you a sign of my covenant with you and with all living creatures, for all generations to come. I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is the sign of my covenant with you and with all the earth." Not some generations, all generations. Not the generations that we think have gotten it right in the past or wrong in the past, or our present generation. It is all generations. "When I send clouds over the earth, the rainbow will appear in the clouds. And I will remember my covenant with you and with all living creatures. Never again will the floodwaters destroy all life. When I see the rainbow in the clouds, I will remember the eternal covenant between God and every living creature on earth." Then God said to Noah, "Yes, this rainbow is the sign of the covenant I am confirming with all creatures on earth." And so, again, it's a beautiful one. It's all generations. And there was another verse at the same time that God was having me in Psalm 24. And in verse 5 of Psalm 14, the Lord just gave me this promise as well. "There were they in great fear, for God is in the generation of the righteous." And only the Lord could call the generation that we are in righteous. It's like reading Lot's life, and then in the New Testament it talks about how righteous Lot, and he was vexed daily, living near Sodom and Gomorrah. And so, again, what has God promised you? Because as I was thinking about this in my own life and just in the lives of biblical people and in modern times, of just when these promises do come, think about when you were saved and when you were crying out to God just to free you to be everything that he said he was. If God, you are real, show me, and the mess that you might have been in. But also when he begins to make his promises to you, where were you? And so behind me, I'm doing laundry. the bed is undone. I could spend time trying to fix this room up, but that's often how our lives are. We're undone, we're a little bit of mess, things aren't perfect, but that's when these promises come, much like Esther when she said, I haven't really been close to the king in quite a while. Like, why would the word come then? Why would the instruction come then? And you look at the life of Peter, and when God said, Peter, feed my sheep. Well, left to our own reasoning, we would think that the promise and direction for that would come when Jesus was asking his disciples, well, who do you say that I am? And they said, some say you're Elijah, some say you're a prophet, but Peter said, you're the Messiah. And that's when you and I would assume Jesus would said, absolutely correct, Peter, now go feed my sheep. But it actually came years later when he was so undone. Peter had the worst couple of weeks in his life, and that's when Jesus says, now go feed my sheep. If you look at Isaiah, it's like, he is so undone. Woe is me, for I am undone. I am a man of unclean lips. And it's like, now this is when God says, who will go for us? And so be encouraged today of, if you're in a broken place, if you're feeling undone or nothing's made up, let the Lord speak his promises to you, and he keeps his promises. He keeps his covenant from one generation to the next. So be encouraged. God bless you until next time.